Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to be telling you about my 23 anticipated releases for this year. So before we get into it, I just want to say that I am filming this video on January 3rd, but it will be uploaded next week for me because this week I wanted to upload my December wrap-up. So I just want to say that by the time this video is up, so whenever you're watching, some of the books I'm going to be talking about will have been released already. Yeah, I just want to put it out there, but they're all from this year. And some of them are continuations to series that I have started, so I won't be obviously getting into the plot of that particular book. I will be mostly talking about the plot either of the first book or just the series in general. And having said that, let's just start. And obviously, let's start with the books that are coming out in January. So the first book I am excited about is called A Ruinous Fate, and this is the first book in a new series that is called Heartless Fates, and it's fantasy and it's coming out on January 3rd, so today for me. And in this book, we are going to follow Calliope, who is a witch. And just like all witches in that world, her fate is connected to a powerful artifact. But she has terrifying powers, and so she has deserted her coven. But now, since it is her fate, she is close to starting a war that could decimate her people. And so she wants to basically reset her fate, even if that means having to enter the never-ending forest. And in there, she will learn that trying to choose your own fate can have deadly consequences. And yeah, that sounds very interesting to me. And the next book that also comes out on January 3rd is called They're Watching You, and it's a mystery thriller. And in this one, Polly has disappeared 2 weeks ago, and she was supposed to share a big secret with her roommate, Marin. But she never managed to share her secret. The only thing that Marin knows is that the secret was about people in their school. And she also knows that, unlike what everyone else is thinking, Polly did not run away. And then Marin finds a letter that belonged to Polly about a secret society. And then she herself wants to enter the secret society to try to figure out what happened to her friend. And once she is in the society, she starts playing their games, but they are dangerous and deadly. And I love mysteries and I love secret societies, so this just sounds very, very intriguing to me. Next book that is coming out on January 10th is called Lost in the Moment and Found, and this is the 8th book in the Wayward Children series, which is a fantasy series of novellas. And in this series, we follow a bunch of kids who can go through some magical doors and they get to new worlds that they explore, and they usually return to their original worlds, and they go to a special school for those kids that have gone to those worlds and feel like they belong in those other worlds, not their original worlds. And I have some mixed feelings about this series in general because I usually love it when we get to discover a new world with a character, but other times it's just going through some quests with the characters, and usually I don't care about that much. But in this one, it sounds like we are gonna be following a character discovering a world, because Antoinette is lost and she finds herself in a shop where lost things go. And she cannot get out of there. Even if she finds doors, she can't get out of the shop. And so I feel like this is one of the ones that I'm going to love from this series, and I am very excited to read it. The next book is also coming out on January 10th, and it's called Hellbent, and this is the second book in the Alex Stern series. And I read the first one, Ninth House, last year, and absolutely loved it. And I just said that I love secret societies, and there are secret societies in this series, and there are secret societies with magic, which is even better. And from how book one ended, in this one, they are supposed to be going on a rescue mission, which I am very excited about because of the person who is going to be rescued, and also because of the place where the rescue mission is going to take place. And also, I love this cover. One of my friends said that it looks disgusting, and it does, but that is exactly why I love it. And yeah, I am very, very excited for this. The next book, also coming out on January 10th, is called City of Nightmares, which is book 1 in a series of the same name, and this is a horror fantasy. And in this book, there is a place called Newham, and basically falling asleep there and dreaming means waking up as your worst nightmare. And that has happened to Ness's sister. And Ness is worried that it will either happen to her or that she will be killed by one of the monsters that roam the city. And so she tries to do everything she can to remain safe, even if that means hanging out with people from an organization that might be a cult. And so she does one job for that organization/cult, but everything goes very wrong. And now she has to figure out what the hell is happening. And this book sounds very strange, very weird, but I tend to love weird horror, so I am very intrigued about this. And the last book coming out on January 10th is called The Daughters of Izdihar, and this is book 1 in the Alamaxa duology, and this is also fantasy. And in this book, we are following Nehal, who is a water weaver, and she wants to go to a school where she can learn how to use her powers, but her family cannot afford it. So she is married to a wealthy merchant, but that guy is actually in love with someone else, who is a woman called Georgina. But Georgina has her own secrets because she is a powerful earth weaver and she has dangerously uncontrollable powers. And she's also part of a women's rights group. So Nehal and Georgina are thrown together and they are trying to fight for their rights, but at the same time, there is a war starting. And once again, that sounds very interesting and I am excited. And am I gonna say this for every single book? Probably. Next book is Swift the Storm, Fierce the Flame, and this is fantasy and science fiction, and it's coming out on January 17th. And in this book, we follow Remy, who has been trying to find the friend that saved her, but she failed to save after a mission has gone wrong. And so she follows a lead to a jungle planet where she basically lost everything. And when she gets there, she realizes that the planet itself has changed a lot, and there is a rebellion starting. But she finds someone that tells her that if she helps with the revolution, she will find clues about her friend. And so she needs to decide what to do. And again, we know I'm excited. Next book is called All Hollows, and this is horror and coming out on January 24th. And this book is set on Halloween night in 1984. And while all the kids are out trick-or-treating on the street, there are 4 children who are not from the town, but who join the others and they start asking for help, for people to hide them and save them and basically protect them from the Cunning Man, because the Cunning Man is coming for them. But everywhere around the town, families are kind of falling apart, and so everyone already has a lot on their minds. And who exactly will help those kids? And more importantly to me, who the hell is the Cunning Man? But he sounds creepy, and this book sounds creepy, and I love creepy. And keeping with the creepy theme, there is another horror book coming out on January 24th, and it's called Episode 13. And so in this book, we are following the hosts of a ghost hunting show. And on episode 13, they go to the Paranormal Research Foundation. And in there are clues about some weird experiments that were done in the 1970s. And also, it is definitely haunted. But when the house starts revealing itself, the hosts figure out that it's not exactly everything they dreamed of. And I love watching like ghost hunting stuff. And also I love when houses, like buildings, are sort of a character in the story. And so I really hope that happens in this book. From the synopsis, it sounds like it will. So I am, again, very excited. The next book is called The Drift, and this is thriller and horror, and it's coming out on January 31st. And Hannah wakes up after an accident as she and a group of people try to escape from their secluded boarding school. And now they are trapped in the snow and with a virus that is brewing among them. And Meg wakes up in a cable car suspended above a snowstorm, and she is with a bunch of strangers who have the same uniform as her. And then they find that there is a dead man among them. And finally, there is Carter and his group who are stranded in an abandoned ski chalet, but their generator is starting to fail. And they are all part of a big puzzle, and there is something lurking in the shadows that is threatening to destroy humanity, which sounds very fun. Then the last book coming out in January is The Terraformers, which is science fiction. And Destry is supposed to terraform an Earth-like world in a planet called Sask-E. But she discovers a city inside a volcano, and so she needs to decide if she's going to remain loyal to her organization and just do what she has to do, or if she's gonna be loyal to the truth of the planet's history. And centuries later, we are gonna follow another character called Misha, and he is building a planet-wide transit system when he and an engineer discover something about the planet that could wipe out everyone who is not Homo sapiens living there. Which again sounds extremely fun, and I'm excited. Moving on to February. So the first book I'm excited for that is coming out in February is A Cradle of Ice, and this is the second book in the Moonfall series, which is a fantasy series, and I read book 1 last year. And basically there is a girl who, after a near-death experience, basically foretells the end of the world. And then she kind of gets a death sentence, so she has to run. And she meets with a prince, a thief, and a soldier, and one of them has a very important artifact that they don't really know what it is, but we later learn is gonna be very important to the story and to possibly saving the world. And so they have to work together and trust each other to, like I said, try to save the world. And I really like the first book, so I am very excited to continue on with this series. Next, on February 21st, there is Where Darkness Blooms coming out, and this is a horror book. And in this book, in the town of Bishop, 3 women go missing, but no one really cares or pays much attention or really does anything because it's just something that happened and people are used to. So the only people who actually care are those women's daughters, and they want to find out what the hell happened to their mothers, and they're going to investigate. But they're also going to find out that their town was founded in blood and now it craves theirs. And again, sounds ominous, sounds creepy, sounds interesting. I am intrigued, and this year I definitely have more horror books in my anticipated releases because I feel like last year I didn't have enough. And then I always want more horror. But anyway, moving on to something that is not horror, and that is A Day of Fallen Night, which is book 0 in the Roots of Chaos series, which is the series of the Priory of the Orange Tree. And this is coming out on February 28th. And I absolutely love the Priory, which I read last year. And like, I was obsessed with that book. So I am so excited for this one. And like, when I read the synopsis for this, I was very confused. I mean, not as confused as I was when I read the Priory, because now at least like I know kind of the world, like which kingdom is which, like what their beliefs are, who they are kind of, but still very confused. But basically this book is set before the Priory, and there is someone from the Priory that starts questioning what their purpose is, like the Priory's purpose is, because they are not really doing what they were trained to do. So they feel like there is nothing really for them to do, and like, what is their purpose in the world? And then in the kingdom where the royal bloodline is supposed to keep darkness away, the queen gets married to the king of another kingdom and basically saves both of their realms from destruction. But then there is the eruption of Dreadmount, and an age of darkness and violence is coming. And basically, humankind just needs saving. And like I said already, I am so excited for this book. Then moving on to books released in March. So on March 14th, there is Antimatter Blues being released, which is the second book in the Mickey 7 series, which is science fiction series. And I read Mickey 7, which was book 1 last year. And at the time I read it, I mean, when I started reading it, I didn't even know it was going to be a series, but I'm glad it is because I loved it. And so in book 1, we followed Mickey 7, who is the basically 7th version of a guy named Mickey, who signed up to be doing all the dangerous, deadly jobs in their space exploration team. And so, because he can be replaced, basically. And that is why there are 7 Mickeys in the beginning of the book, because he is about to die. And so he tells his team that he's about to die, and the rest of the team goes back into their spaceship and basically start creating Mickey 8 because they think Mickey 7 is not gonna make it. But he does make it, and now there are 2 Mickeys, and that is a problem because that is not allowed. And so in book 1, we see how the 2 Mickeys kind of navigate that situation, trying to not let anyone discover that they both exist. And there is also a whole other plot going on with issues on the planet that they are planning on living in. And I feel like this book will mostly focus on the continuation of those problems, but without a doubt, Mickey will get in trouble. That is for sure. And I love Mickey so much, and I loved book 1, and I am very excited for this. Next book is called A House with Good Bones, and it's coming out on March 28th. And this is a horror book. And in this book, we follow Sam, who is going to visit her mom, and she is very excited to just spend some quality time with her mother. But when she gets there, she realizes that her home is very different, and even her mother is very different, and she just seems very scared. And then she finds a jar of teeth hidden in the rose bushes, and also there are vultures flying around the garden. And so Sam starts investigating, but she will realize that some secrets are better left buried. And I am very excited. I mean, firstly, because it sounds exciting, like it sounds creepy, and it sounds very interesting, but also because I read 2 books from this author last year, and I absolutely love them both. They were so creepy, so scary, and I'm just, very excited. Then moving on to April. So on April 4th, we have Blood Debts coming out, and that is a fantasy book. I think it's a standalone, and 30 years before the main story, there was a young woman murdered, and New Orleans saw the biggest magical massacre in its history, and also there was a throne stolen from a queen. And in the present, Clement and Christina are twins, and they are the heirs to that magical dethroned family, and they learn that their mother is cursed. And Christina doesn't use her magic anymore, but for Clement, his magic is basically his lifeline. And they were once very close, but they have drifted apart. But now they have to come together again to basically figure out who the hell is coming for their family. And again, sounds very exciting, and also totally judging the book by its cover because it looks so good. Then we have The Lake House coming out on April 25th, and this is another horror book. And in this one, we follow Claire, who has grown up paranoid, always preparing for the worst case scenario that never happens. That is until she and 2 other late arrivals gets to a summer camp that has burned down and left no survivors. And then the 3 girls find a dead body in the woods, and they learn that there is someone hunting them, and it won't let them leave. Then moving on from April to August, we have The Mirrored Heavens that is coming out on August 1st. And this is the 3rd book in the Between Earth and Sky series, which is a fantasy series. And I never really know how to explain what is going on in this series, but basically there is a rare celestial event that happens, and with that, the world is kind of changed forever. And there are also gods in the bodies of humans who are fighting. And there is also another character who is my favorite, who also has some other powers. And the first book in the series was like fast-paced, a lot of action, a lot of things going on, and I loved it. The second was way slower. It was more world building, more political, but I also loved it. And at the time that I'm filming this video, there is still no cover for this book and no synopsis, but from the way that book 2 ended, I think I know at least kind of what's gonna happen with my favorite character, and I am so excited for that. And I'm obviously excited for the other characters as well, but just very excited for what I think is gonna happen with my favorite character. The next book coming out on August 22nd is called The Midnight Kingdom, and this is the 2nd book in the Dark Gods series, which is another fantasy series. And once again, I read book 1 last year, and we follow 4 heirs of 4 families who are the descendants of 4 gods, and they have the power of life, death, light, and darkness. And basically, their gods have ceased communication with their kingdom, basically, and they have kind of cut them off from the rest of the world. And so those 4 heirs are trying to kind of figure out a way to save their world, but things don't exactly go according to plan. And I am very excited for this book because, once again, I really liked book 1. Things ended kind of tense, and there are some characters that I don't really exactly know where they are or like what their situation is. So very, very excited. Next book is coming out on August 29th, and it's called Never a Hero, and it's the second book from the series called Monsters, which is also fantasy. And I also read the first book last year, and in this one we follow Joan, and she learns that she and her family are monsters, and the boy that she had a crush on is actually a monster hunter. So things are not exactly going as planned for her, and now she has to like embrace her monstrousness to save her family. And towards the end of the first book, there is kind of a fight, and so I assume we are going to have to deal with the aftermaths of that fight. And I am intrigued because something that I was not expecting happened, and so I really want to know how that is gonna work out, because I feel like it's not gonna work out well. And yeah, again, very excited. Then jumping into November, on November 14th, System Collapse is coming out, and this is the 7th book in the Murderbot Diary series, and this is a science fiction novella series. I mean, I think there is like a novel in there, but the rest are novellas. And in this book, we follow an android who calls itself Murderbot, and we follow it on various different missions with also various different humans who Murderbot has a complicated relationship with, because he doesn't really love humans and he's kind of confused by them, and honestly relatable. And there is still no cover or synopsis for this book, but I just love Murderbot so much. I love its personality, and I could just follow Murderbot doing whatever. So I am still excited for this book. And the 23rd and final book I'm going to be talking about in this video is War Widow, which is coming out on November 21st, and it's the second book in the Blood Scion series, which is fantasy. And again, I read the first book last year, and we follow Sloane, who is a Scion, and that means that she can burn her enemies, and she is the descendant of a god. But in her world, Scions are not supposed to exist, and they are supposed to be executed. So she just needs to hide her powers constantly. But when she turns 15, she is actually called to join the Lucy's army, and so she is determined to destroy them from the inside. And once again, there is still no synopsis for this book, but I loved the first one, and at the end there was like a reveal or a plot twist that I was so shocked by, and I just need to know what happens next. And so once again, I am very, very excited for this book. And so yes, those are the 23 books coming out in this year that I am very excited for, and I'm sure that I will discover some more books as the year goes on, but for now, those 23, I cannot wait. I hope you found some books to get excited about as well if you didn't know about them before. And yeah, that is everything for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!